Nigel, you mentioned a lot there about the funding, income, outcome, cash control, looking at the cash flow. Part of that will be salary cost management. Are there guidelines? Will there be new guidelines for next season?
Well, since Bury failed, and with the increasing losses that have been incurred in the EFL, the clubs have been looking at this for a. The clubs are continually looking at this. Ever since I came into the game 10 years ago, they've been looking at this, and it's just like an ongoing process. The latest round of amendments have been going probably a year. We got a set of draft rules probably last Tuesday, I think, for League Two. Previous to that, we had a long consultation about what clubs wanted, whether they wanted caps, limits, a new system, all kinds of things. So we finally got some draft proposals last week, and I sort of gave my feedback to the EFL on them yesterday afternoon after looking at them over the last few days.
Every club is so different, whether you can compare yourself or not. Can you get a one-size-fits-all solution to this particular problem?
I think the issue fundamentally is the owners of clubs have very different views about what level of controls they should be subjected to by the league, and that's the fundamental bit. So you've got some clubs who believe that there should be real rigorous, tight controls, oversight, and other ones who believe that they're the custodians of that club and they'll do it their way and they don't need anybody to tell them how to do it, and they want minimal restrictions. So you get polarised views, and how you bring those together is really difficult. The EFL's a members club, so the members decide, and the voting means 66% or 50%, depending on what kind of a rule or regulation it is, determine what happens. So what tends to happen is things gravitate to somewhere near the middle, and what that can sometimes mean is you get the outcome that offends 50% of the members the least, rather than the outcome that's the best for the collective, because clubs are self-interested and they vote what is suitable for their own club. They've always done this, so this isn't new. It's not like it's just come around in the 2020s and in the 1960s everybody voted for what was in the interests of the game. I don't think it did. I've spoken to lots of people who've been around a long time, and everybody's always voted for what was in the interest of their clubs. I think what we're finding now is that the interests of each individual club are far, far wider than they used to be. So in the past, clubs had similar kinds of approaches to life in football and how they ran the clubs. So that meant the views were quite narrow. So when you found a middle ground over something narrow, then lots of people are happy. When it's now quite wide as what people want, seldom are people happy, and you tend to get a lowest common denominator outcomes. And I think this is what you get with wage controls. I was at a championship meeting probably 4 years ago, and a new owner came in with a new chief executive talking about championship financial fair play, and his view of life was that clubs should be able to make unlimited losses, and he had enough money to fund them. And I was at Huddersfield, and that wasn't our case, and we argued something different, and the rules came in at, I think, 37 million over 3 years. That owner burned 150 million quid in probably 2 or 3 years and disappeared along with his CEO, and his club went off on a really difficult trail. So that's the sort of challenge that you have in trying to bring all these things together. It's difficult. I think fans know my view on salary control, and it's been the same ever since I came into this game. I've did 20 years looking at clubs, looking at clubs and businesses in financial difficulty, and came into the league, and the EFL is built on losses, and that can't. It is not sustainable. It hasn't been sustainable since I came into the league, and you kind of chip away at it, but it's still the same core issues, but they just get bigger and bigger, and the numbers get bigger and bigger, and it's more difficult to solve.